This screencast is for those of you who were absent on Friday when we went over essay question number 2 for the test. So the question is asking you to discuss how Islamic Spain had policies that contributed to tolerance in their society, and how, because they had those policies, how did those policies lead to accomplishments and the age of cultural expansion in Islamic Spain. So on Friday, we talked about the things that we saw in the video and made sure that everybody has this list. And this list is actually on our Schoology page, although not with these colors. So I will probably actually, now that I'm talking about it, remove that link and add this link to it because these colors have some meaning, and I actually added more to the list. So remember that when we watched the video on Islamic Spain, we were recording policies in Islamic Spain that contributed to tolerance, and that we were also looking for the accomplishments. So what I want you to do with this question is I want you to think about which policies led to specific accomplishments in Islamic Spain. And what we did on Friday is we color coded so that you could begin to think about how you would talk about this in a paragraph form. And the colors actually have meaning because what they're doing is they're showing on this side what the policy was that would then lead to the accomplishment over here. So right here in blue, we'll start with this first one. A couple of the policies in Islamic Spain are as follows. All three groups are integrated into the economic life, allowed to trade and shop in the markets. New goods are traded and brought into Spain from the Vikings and the East. So this is all discussing kind of the economy and how Islamic Spain had a very open economy. So what is the direct result of that? Well, first of all, having an open economy where you allow for products to come in and you allow for free trade brings wealth. And so we know that there was a great deal of wealth in Islamic Spain, and this wealth then allows for grand projects. These projects included the building of magnificent palaces and pleasure gardens. Luxury goods are brought into Islamic Spain. They enjoy a whole variety of things from exotic foods to handicrafts. And as a result of that, people wanted to come even more, and people wanted to trade even more. This openness in the economy and the wealth that's generated from that allows for them to build these great bathhouses. They had street lighting. They had the means to create excellent sewer systems, which makes the city cleaner and better. So by looking at this policy here, we can see that there were some direct outcomes of that. Another example, here we have Christians and Jews allowed to serve as ambassadors and government workers in the Islamic government. So the Islamic ruler, Abd al-Rahman III, was not threatened by Christians and Jewish people working in his government, and in fact appointed Christian ambassadors to go to Europe to talk with kings in Europe. And as a result of this, those Christian ambassadors could go to Europe where you have Christian kingdoms and have that connection, have that common background together and work together. And there was a trust that was built. And so as a result of this, one of the great accomplishments of Abd al-Rahman III's reign is that he was able to create peace treaties with German Christian kingdoms. And that came as a direct result of allowing Christians to represent his Islamic government. Another one here we see in green, scientists, scholars, artists, and doctors welcomed from all parts of the world, and they collaborated and shared knowledge. They were welcomed in Cordoba, Spain, whether they were Christian, whether they came from the Byzantine Empire or Northern Africa or all the way from Baghdad. It didn't matter. They were accepted into the scholastic community. And so as a result, you have all of these things that happen. One of the first under Abd al Rahman's rule was that there was the great mosque at Cordoba that was built by a Byzantine architect who brought the beautiful tiles that made beautiful mosaics in this mosque that still stands today. It becomes one of the most beautiful buildings in all of Europe. Poetry expands, and a new form of Jewish poetry becomes a part of the culture in Islamic Spain because Jewish leaders, Jewish artists, Jewish writers were integrated into the society. Another accomplishment that came out of this coming together as workers, as educators, as intellectuals, is that they had something called the Green Revolution. They utilized the old aqueduct system from the Romans. They invented the water wheel, and as a result of that, they are able to grow these luxury foods and create these pleasure gardens that included ponds and exotic animals and trees and flowers. And this becomes a major part of the capital of Cordoba. They welcomed a musician from Baghdad, and as a result, the first music conservatory was created. He actually brought new fashions and hairstyles and cooking. Perfumes were introduced from these artists that were coming from the East. So you have this wonderful cultural flowering that comes out of the fact that they are allowing for these people to come and be a part of the Islamic Empire. Another one here, another policy. Books from the Byzantine libraries were collected, and Spain had access to the knowledge and writings of the ancient Greeks. There was a great work of translation done. Many of the Greek works were preserved as they were copied over and over again. Roman classical writings were preserved as they were copied over and over again, and these volumes were placed in libraries and then spread throughout the region so that people had access to them. They could explore some of that old learning. And you might argue that it's possible that the Renaissance might not have taken off in some of the places that it did because these writings would not have been copied in such large numbers so that they'll be used later. We know that as scientists came together, as they looked at the knowledge of the ancient Greeks, even about medicine, and they adapt and even improve some of the findings that they find, that they are reading in these books. They're able to cure diseases through medical research using some of the information that they have. Cordoba becomes host to the largest library in the medieval world. Books are available in all areas of science, medicine, math, astronomy, anatomy, all of these different topics that people are reading and talk about and learning together. So these are just a few examples of how you can connect these policies to the actual accomplishments in Islamic Spain. The main idea here is that because during this time period, and it was a short time period, but because during this time period, the leaders in Islamic Spain were open, very open society, very open to having different people from different backgrounds coming together, working together, talking together, participating in the economy together, you have these amazing outcomes that come out of this. And for a short period of time in Islamic Spain, you have a cultural flowering, cultural expansion, artistic expansion, learning happening. So to write, if this question is on the test, to write a short answer essay about this, you would want to, of course, start with a topic sentence that states something like the policies in Islamic Spain that helped foster tolerance led to many great accomplishments. And then you would want to give me 3 examples. So you might choose Christians and Jews. One example is that Christians and Jews are allowed to serve as ambassadors and government workers in the Islamic government. Because Abd al-Rahman was not threatened by the Christians and employing them in his government, he was able to create peace treaties with German Christian kingdoms. Another example is that all three groups, Jewish people, Christians, and Muslims, were integrated into the economic life, and trade was shared among all of these groups. And then the outcome of that, you would choose some of these items here as examples of the accomplishments that came out of that. And so you would want to do that 3 times, an example of a policy and how that policy led to the contributions, and then close it with a concluding sentence. So, like I said, these are color coded because that's what we did in class. We wrote it on the board, and we just outlined and highlighted to show which of the policies match up with the accomplishments as well. All right, if you have any further questions after looking at this video, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help you. And once again, outline this on your study card so that you can have it for the test.